shape. Find out and every conversation explores beyond the thinking, beyond the obvious. And today I have my special guest. She's a visionary mentor, cultural architect, and founder of the Lumina Guild, and of course, her advocacy, Be Exceptional, Be You. No other than Miss Tiffany Carole.
Hi, Daniel. It's a pleasure to be with you again.
Yes, welcome back, Miss Tiffany, to one of my podcasts. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I may?
Sure. Well, my background is in evolutionary biology, biochemistry, and alternative medicine or complementary medicine. And I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8 years old. So it's this
Mm-hmm.
beautiful intersection of medicine, healing, evolution, transformation, and possibility for human beings. I would say that's what I would want people to know about me.
Yes, and thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world, Miss Tiffany. Thank you. So today, let's talk about the power without distortion, how to lead and create without burning out our force. So tell us, Miss Tiffany, we often talk about burnout as exhaustion, but what are the more subtle early emotional or cognitive symptoms that signal someone is leading through the force of distorted power?
Mm, such a good question. So I think I would need to define what's meant by distorted power. So when we're actually not in our true power, so when I'm in my true power, I can be in healthy relatedness with another person. I don't need to dominate over someone or collapse in order to make my way and get my needs met. I can meet that person as they are, as I am, both in our brilliance and power, and then we get to go somewhere new together. And distortions of power are basically when we're not in our true power, but we're acting like we are. So, in some ways, we're putting on a show, we're acting out of persona, we're trying really hard, we're efforting. And those are all the things that when we talk about burnout, that's really what creates burnout. It's not really doing too much. I do so much. I accomplish so much, but because I'm lit up and I'm tuned in most of the time and aligned with myself and my true power, it just flows. So some of the signs, your question were what are the deeper signs of this? It would be pushing, trying, feeling unsatisfied, uh, frustrated, etc.
Very well said, Miss Tiffany. You talk about power without distortion. For an ambitious leader, what are the primary sources of the distortion? Is it cultural conditioning or a misunderstanding of what true authority looks like?
I think both. Uh, we don't have a lot of examples of true power in high leadership positions. It's the very nature of corrupt systems that by the time somebody gets into a high leadership position, what we might consider a high leadership position, say in a very big corporate setting or in government, they've had to compromise so much of their own ethics and integrity often that by the time they're in that position of power, they're already sort of holding the power is in a way that's distorted. And so it sets them up for ultimate failure. And by failure, I just mean nobody can sustain being in distorted power and not have it hit them hard, either in a health way or in dissolution of healthy relationships in their life.
Hmm. Definitely. So let's talk about the self betrayal, Miss Stephanie. When we lead with force, we often violate our own values or natural strength. So, can you describe what the moment of self betrayal feels like for a leader? What is the internal trade off they're making in that moment?
That's such a great question.
Thank you.
Internal betrayal is basically self-abandonment. So it's when a person leaves themselves in order to get fill in the blank. So leaving yourself in order to get recognition, leaving your so let me give an example. It could be staying in a job that is sucking your soul because it's paying you well. I don't know, did that answer your question? I kind of lost the thread of the question, but that's a good example.
True. That's very true, Miss
Mm.
Tiffany. So, how about the power versus force? If force is effortful, draining, and requires constant pushing, how would you describe the sensation or qualities of a true undistorted power? Does it feel more likely clarity, alignment, or magnetic pull?
Wow, such a good question too. The felt sense of true power in action is uh, inner authority. There's a boldness and a directness, but it's not arrogant. It's not trying to be anything that it isn't. Its isness as it's arising in the person demands and commands attention, but not because that person is trying to get attention. It's just that when you're in the presence of somebody that's emanating in real time, emanating true power, which is also vulnerable, by the way, I'll say. When I'm in my true power and I'm speaking from my emergent edge, I don't already know what I'm going to say. And my ego would really like to already know what I'm going to say and feel like it's really cool and have the great answers for you. But if I'm actually leaning out in my own edge and speaking to the edge of my own understanding of things, I'm both in my power and I'm vulnerable in a healthy way. And so, um, yeah, I think this expression to see it in people is a new is an it's not new, but it's newer to see it sustained in leadership positions.
Well, yeah, Miss Tiffany. So you wrote a book, which is it related to the topic that we're talking about?
I have two things. I have the Oracle deck, Essential Oils as Guides for Metamorphosis, and then I have my book, The Inner Nature of Essential Oils, which we don't have a picture of it there because it just was released. But it how it relates to this topic of power without distortion and leadership is that we haven't because we haven't had at least in the last couple hundred years, we haven't had a lot of examples of really healthy, powerful leadership without distortion, particularly for women, I'll say. There are some, but there's not a lot. And so and so we need to be guided by wisdom that helps us remember what's possible for us, and plants do that. I specifically speak about them through essential oils, so working with the plant energies through essential oils to help human beings remember their basically their superpowers, their capacities for being superhuman or supernatural in what they do. And that's what working with the oils in the way that I teach and guide can do.
Well, interesting, Miss Tiffany. Yes, interesting indeed. So, where does undistorted power actually come from for a leader? Is it cultivated from integrity, from a deep connection to purpose larger than ego, or from something else entirely?
I think both of what you said, the cultivation of undistorted power, you can't actually be running that kind of power if you don't have integrity. In other words, it's breaches in integrity that create the distortions in power. So integrity is essential. And I also think that being in healthy true power, it's spiritual in nature. Because when we're in our healthy true power, we're actually interfacing or connecting with our infinite self in this finite body. So there has to be a spiritual root and a spiritual emanation and a commitment to integrity, lived integrity.
Very well said, Miss Tiffany. A key idea here is that a leader is a channel for energy and vision, and not the sole source. What a practical shift in mindset and language move someone from being the engine to becoming the clear channel.
Is the question what would move somebody from being the engine to the clear channel?
Yes, please.
Ooh, wow, that's such a great question because that's really been the journey of my life. I I'm a very driven person, and as I said, I've been an entrepreneur since I was 8. I'm
Mhm.
extremely creative, and I mean, I just get ideas, download them, and put them into action, and I've done that my whole life. And somewhere probably in the last decade, I'm gonna be 51 in a week. So sometime in the last decade, I couldn't actually push myself the way that I used to push myself. Like, it felt incorrect. It felt more than incorrect, it felt wrong for my body. And physically, I just couldn't even do it anymore. And so but yet I was still driven, and I was still having all these ideas, and I have this, like, fire that burns in me for purpose and creation. So I was at a sort of crossroads, like, "Oh, how do I be me and birth everything that wants to birth without pushing and driving it forward in those ways that I was used to doing?" And that it's not like it happened immediately. It was a process that had to sort of have its way with me. But I would describe it as me letting go of the reins, letting go of control and letting the universe have more of that control. So in that sense, it was a progressive choosing of surrender, a choosing of surrender, a choosing of letting go of control, a choosing of letting go of control. And there were times when I thought, is this me just being lazy? Is this me just giving up? Oh my God, what's happening? What's going to come of me? And then with each move, it's like, oh no, what I would create would be even more splendid, even more timely, have even more reach because it was infused not just with Tiffany and my persona and my ego and my personality, but Tiffany, higher self Tiffany, and also the realms of spiritual guidance. Like, they all got to contribute to how these things are coming into the world, like with the Oracle deck. So I would say the process of that shift requires a choice to do things differently because you recognize the limitations of how you're currently doing them. And then that choice actually has to be presented or experienced in the body as progressive surrender, which can be challenging for a strong leader. And yet, we can't actually experience the true depth and power of our leadership until we learn chosen surrender.
Indeed, Miss Tiffany. So let's talk about the ego as distortion.
Mm.
How does the ego specifically distort power? Is it by attaching success to a personal identity or needing a credit or fearing irrelevance? What is a daily or weekly practice to spot the soothe the ego's interference?
Mm. I mean, I used to be afraid of my ego because I was in a spiritual community that saw the ego as the impediment of enlightenment, and I really wanted to be as enlightened and aware as possible in this life. And then I realized that I it doesn't do any good to be afraid of your ego. I've actually fully embraced my ego, and it's I have a stunning ego. I really like it, and I don't let my ego drive the bus. I put it thoughtfully in the back seat of the bus while I drive with a different part of me, and that comes from spiritual depth and spiritual maturity and also choice. I make that choice every day. In terms of practice, I mean, I get up I have a daughter who's 2. I get up every morning long before she gets up so that I can sit, I can meditate, I can pray, I can journal, I can listen for what wants to be heard and then move forward into my day. So I would say any practice that takes you out of your self-concern and connects you to something bigger than you is essential for keeping right relationship with ego. And that, by the way, can be for my husband, it's surfing. For some people, it's hiking or rock climbing. It doesn't have to be prayer and meditation, but it does need to be something that gets you out of yourself.
Definitely, Miss Tiffany. The integration challenge. This isn't about becoming a different person, isn't it? But integrating a new mode of operating. What is the most common point of failure or regression for a leader trying to make this shift? Where do they typically get pulled back into distortion?
Such a great question too. I think it has to do with a, a mistaken um, a mistaken understanding of how our needs are met or how we get resource. So an example of that would be, and I've watched this with because I work with a lot of high level creators, guiding them as they're bringing their next creation into the world. And I watch the common pitfalls, where they tend to get hung up, where they tend to regress, where they stop, where they shut down, or where they go into old behaviors of plowing through. And almost always it's somewhere along the path where they uh, where fear comes in, and they're afraid that they're going to lose something that they've come to know if they continue on this path of letting go of how it has been. So we have to let go of something in order to receive something, right? We have to make space. My husband and I, because we live between Sri Lanka, Italy, and the United States, we travel all the time. And now we have a 2-year-old. And so we acquire stuff, especially for her. Like we acquire toys and we acquire these. But every time we go to move again, we need to let it go because we're getting things into a suitcase. So so you so this process of letting go, uh, there's grief that's there, and there's a sort of threshold that you have to cross through for yourself as you let go to open up space for what's next. And the mistaken understanding here is that if you let go, that then you're not going to get what you want, or you're not going to be taken care of, or you're not, you're going to lose something that's really important to you. And so I think if if again, it does point back to a spiritual foundation, like strictly material viewpoints and orientations won't give you enough of an understanding of the truth of reality for you to navigate with ease. If you are only viewing things through material eyes, that you need to do something in order to acquire something, and then you need to hold on to it, then you will be miserable. Like, you will be miserable because you won't be able to evolve and receive more and be more. So I think it's having this higher relationship to loss, to resurrection, to rebirth, and to what it means to grieve as an act of opening up space for grace at work in your life.
Very well said, Miss Tiffany. And let's talk about the legacy of this power. Forceful leadership often leaves behind exhaustion and dependency. What is the different legacy in team, the culture, the market, or a leader who operates from this undistorted power over many years?
Can you ask the question one more time? What's the last part? What's the legacy?
Yes, forceful leadership often leaves behind exhaustion and dependency. What is the
Mhm.
different legacy in team, the culture, the market of a leader who operates from this undistorted power over many years?
What's the hallmark of a leader that operates from undistorted power? Um, they have a clear signal. They have a clear signal, and it doesn't mean that everybody loves them. Uh, I don't think that that's a sign of a clear. undistorted leader in action. But I do, when I see an, by the way, undistorted doesn't mean that you aren't human. I mean, I operate at a high degree of power that's most of the time undistorted, but I'm also human and I'm also learning and I make mistakes and I have an ego and sometimes I act out of it. Sometimes it does drive the bus. But one of the hallmarks is that I I recognize it and I surround myself with key key people and key understandings that help keep my power in check. I'm not just, running out in tyrant mode. That's uninteresting to me. So I guess that the hallmarks of a healthy leader in terms of undistorted power would do this. They would surround themselves with people that would tell them the truth and who can actually see their brilliance. And they would be more committed to the higher purpose and the higher truth that wants to move through them in the world than they would be more committed to that than they would be committed to being liked, to being approved of. And they would do this consistently over time. And you would see that trail of consistency with them over time. Again, it's not perfection, but it's consistency of returning to being a channel for basically more goodness in the world.
Definitely goodness in the world. So, Miss Stephanie, before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, because my abstract essay is already in sixth season, abstract poetry in third season, and of course my book 101 review in sixth season too, comedy 101 third season, and my food 101 in sixth season as well. Geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 in its fifth season, science 101, sex 101, fourth season, spiritual awakening, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, and of course my Bible verses 101 are my baby podcasts. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Miss Tiffany, for the leader listening who feels the drain of distortion but cannot imagine a full overhaul, what is the one tiny, concrete micro habit they could start tomorrow to begin cleaning their channel and experience a minute of undistorted power in their day?
I'd say sit in the morning before you look at your phone,
Yes.
uh, and feel your desire to have things be different, and then proceed and let the universe take care of the rest.
Let the universe unfold, people. Yes, definitely. So, Miss Tiffany, can you please invite the listeners to support your books, your advocacy, your business, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Yes, the main project that I would encourage anyone who is drawn to the way that I speak and operate is to check out the Lumina Guild, LUMINA guild.com. It's happening there. It's all happening there.
Yes, Lumina Guild. Tell us what it's all about, Miss Tiffany. What is Lumina Guild all about?
Lumina Guild is basically it's a digital community that is creating through artful values and reshaping the future of value together. It's for people who really feel called to be the architects and the stewards of the future and to do things in a different way than we ever have.
Definitely. Lumina Guild people, let's support Miss Tiffany, because if you support her, for sure, more and more Lumina Guild will. For sure. I have one more question, Miss Tiffany, before I will let you go. How does communication style shift if a force communicates in directiveness and urgency? What is the language of tonality of power?
What's the language of tonality of power?
Yes, please.
Presence. When somebody is actually truly present, first with themselves, they can be present with another person, and that changes the tone of everything.
Definitely, Miss Tiffany Carole. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, Daniel. See you again.
See
Bye,
you
everyone.
again. I'm inviting you to be please do part of my entrepreneurship 101, and let's talk about entrepreneurship mindset.
Okay. Thank you
That'll
so
be
much.
awesome. You
All right,
are most welcome.
lots
Most
of love.
welcome. Have a good one,
Bye.
and welcome, people. See you soon.